Gimme a O. Gimme a my. Gimme a God. Wait, is that weird? Can I say give me a God? That came across strangely. Oh well. Gimme a hey. What does it spell? Is that what they do? Do they do that? Oh my god, hey! Welcome back to my Stagey YouTube channel. If you are meeting me for the first time, hello, my name is Mickey Joe and I am obsessed with all things theatre. Today I am wearing my Bring It On merch. It is all happening, not because I'm talking about that show, but I'm going to be talking about another cheerleading based show, the musical But I'm a Cheerleader, which recently finished its run at the Turbine Theatre in Battersea. This is a new musical based on the 90s cult LGBT film about conversion therapy, as well as the coming out experience and discovering your sexuality during your teenage years. Very relatable content. So this is a show I've been really interested in for a while. I saw the sort of workshop presentation that happened as part of MT Fest at the Other Palace Theatre a few years ago, and I remembered being just really enamored with the material. There were some really great standout songs, so I was very excited to see this project develop. But also I was very keen for this show to get a full run in London because I've been a staunch advocate of queer women and queer female characters being represented in stage musicals. I've talked about this a little bit before because as far as queer representation goes in musical theatre history, there's been a disproportionate amount of gay men versus queer women. And this is a show that has plenty of both and provides a really great insight into the young queer experience, which I think is really important. And being a show about conversion therapy right now is really important with all of the chaos going on around that in the UK and worldwide. The impact that not criminalising conversion therapy practices has on young queer people, but specifically on young trans people worldwide, is just enormous and unforgivably negligent. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to tell you all about the musical, But I'm a Cheerleader. So I got to see it shortly before it closed. Here are my thoughts. So I really enjoyed the show. The Turbine Theatre is a very intimate space, which is what estate agents tell you when they mean very, very small. And so there are limitations as to what can be done. And in terms of like the budget that the show had, you could see some of those limitations in this production as well. From a music perspective, I'm pretty sure we only had a keys player and some tracks happening. We did not have a full band. The set I enjoyed. It was quite a clever, versatile set that kind of looks like a Barbie dream house, but then had these ugly, ugly pre-show shower curtains. I have no idea why they wanted these to be a thing. I would have much preferred just like a general screen if you wanted to have a different scene before we go into that location, before we reveal what will be the location for most of the show. Would have preferred to have like a cloth with just like a generic, nice looking high school background that then goes up to reveal that. But again, with a more established production, maybe somewhere like the Other Palace Theatre. I don't even know if this is a thing that's happening. It would just make sense because Paul Taylor Mills is the artistic director of both venues. Then that is something that we might be able to see there. But based on the material and the cast and the performance and my enjoyment of the show, it's a 4-star show. It has just so much heart, so much warmth. It's such an important story. It shows such respect for all of its characters. I really enjoy the care that this takes in talking about this topic, and what can be quite a traumatizing topic as well. So to do it in a way that just gives you this joyous queer euphoria, I think is really special and is what is going to help it connect with young audiences, which is very important. So Alice Croft played Megan, who was the protagonist of this show. She is the titular cheerleader of the musical, and she is basically a character who is outed by her friends to her parents, and they have this whole intervention without it really having dawned on Megan that she might actually be a lesbian. So everyone else is kind of revealing her sexuality to her. And she is then sent away to this conversion therapy program with a bunch of other LGBT teens. LGBT teens? Yes. She's fantastic. She's just really endearing. She has this brilliant presence on stage. She sings so sweetly. She is full of charm, which you have to be to sell this role. She just has to be all doe eyes and innocence. And she is that completely. She also looks uncannily like Rachel Bloom from Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and I could not unsee this the entire time, and sounds a lot like her when doing an American accent as well. I don't know if she's been told this before, but uncannily similar, like ridiculously. If Rachel Bloom ever needs anyone to play a younger version of her, Alice Croft is the answer. Now, opposite her, normally Evie Rose Lane plays the role of Graham. However, for this performance, there was an understudy on, Billy Bowman, who weirdly looks very similar to Evie Rose Lane. And what didn't help this whole situation is there was no understudy slip in the programme. Now, the show had extended what was meant to be its original run, and the programmes printed were of the original cast. Various cast members had to leave. Tiffany Graves had left, Lemuel Knights had left, they had been replaced by new people, and so the cast information in the programme was not accurate and there were no slips printed. And like, I get not wanting to reprint all of the programmes, that's expensive, it's a small production, it's a small theatre, but like, you can print off some black and white inserts to go into the programme with the new cast information and the understudy information, because so many people will have left that venue thinking they saw Evie Rose Lane because her headshot does not look very dissimilar from Billy Bowman, who was playing Graham. Billy was fantastic. She had only recently joined the show. There were a couple of numbers where they very subtly removed her from the stage because clearly she had not actually been rehearsed into the whole thing. But it's a really great character. It's a really relatable character. She's this kind of edgy teen, very Maeve from Sex Education, and she played her really well. I don't know that I bought into how quickly the romantic plotline advanced and how fast we went from like these two characters who really don't get each other to then completely falling in love, but I feel like that's more of a shortcoming of the material. I feel like this is a show that has a lot of romantic subplots and it wants to give a lot of time and attention to all of them, but I really needed a little bit more focus on getting us from A to B with our main characters. This show also has some scene stealers. First and foremost is Jodie Steele. Jodie multi-roles in this show. She is hilarious at both. They're completely different characters. In one of them, she's like a confident cheerleader. In the other one, she's this quirky Australian lesbian icon. And it's just Jodie Steele being hilarious. She can sell the strangest of lines on stage with comedy timing the way that no one else really can. And it's interesting getting to see her play goofy and quirky and ridiculous, as well as the kind of statuesque and popular and all of the things you normally associate Jodie Steele with. From the moment she came on with an Australian accent, I knew I was done for because it was just hysterically funny. She had all of these little asides that I'm sure were not in the script. Like there was this one little line that she said to cover up the fact that she had to come into a scene late because she'd just done a costume change because she'd been on in the previous scene as her other character. And even that was like scene-stoppingly funny. Scene-stoppingly? I'm making that a term. If that's not a term, it's not like show stopping. Well, I suppose it is. If it stops the scene, it stops the show. I've also got to shout out Jodie Jacobs. Jodie was part of the original workshop version of the show that I saw, and then in this plays the mum character of Megan, but then also one of two gay men who helped to liberate a lot of the students from the conversion therapy centre and expose them to queer life, which was a really fun and funny little arc, and I really enjoyed those characters, both Jodie and Oliver Brooks, who played the other one of the two gay men. I will say there are points during this show where the multi-rolling started to feel unsustainable. The show has a very similar ending to Hairspray, and a lot of characters are reappearing and confronting each other and everyone's on stage together, and it just kind of felt like it was needlessly chaotic with someone coming on and then having to run off, and you can still see them getting changed at the side of the stage because it's the turbine and there are precious few wings. So I would love to see a version of this show where there are more cast members and it's able to be a little bit slicker because of that. So don't get me wrong, there is so much good in this show. So from having seen this show before, I knew that there were two really great moments, two songs that I absolutely loved. In fact, three songs I absolutely loved. Graham has a great song called If That's What It Takes that is going to become, you know, the next Dead Mom, the next Pulled from Addams Family. It's that edgy teen belty vibe. The girls are going to love it. You're going to hear it at all of the drama school auditions, so have fun with that. Megan gets this great song at the end of Act 1 called I'm Seeing New Colours. I enjoyed that song before and I just enjoy the melody of it. I find it's really uplifting, it's really empowering, and the way that it layers with other parts now at the end of Act 1 is really exciting, is really theatrically interesting. There was a song that Megan's high school friends sang during the first act when they were feeling guilty about having sent her away and potentially having made a mistake, and I really enjoyed that when we went into the chorus of that it had a very 90s feel because the show is still discernibly set in the 90s, and I liked that that kind of set it apart from having just a more generic contemporary musical theatre score. I worry that many of these teen shows are starting to sound the same, and while there's definitely a vibe that you want to fit in with, I like when something has its own sound, and when we reached that song I really started to feel that this had its own unique sound in terms of the composition from composer Andrew Abrams. But the absolute highlight of the show, and this was a highlight of the workshop as well, is a song called Wrestling. So this is a song that Aaron Teo sings as Dolph, and I'm not going to tell you what happens in the plot, but it's this really beautiful and vulnerable solo song that just brings together so many things about the young gay experience. It's an incredibly powerful moment in the show. It gets a huge audience reaction, and it's just really exceptional. Incredibly well performed, outstandingly well written. Songs like this and moments like this in shows are what the phrase showstopper was made for. So don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed this show. It has so much heart, the material is so great, the cast were all exceptional. There are ways it could be tightened and there are ways that it could be improved. I've spoken already about the multi-rolling feeling a little bit excessive. There's actually one point in the show where Jodie Steele plays a third character and it just feels like one role too many, because again, it's a dizzying piece of staging that allows her to come on for that, and it's just confusing and it undercuts what they're trying to establish in this very important scene that sets up a lot of other things. There's a drag number that opens the second act, and certain cast members involved in this had only recently joined the production, so it was visibly under-rehearsed, but it was just ropey as hell and aesthetically underwhelming in terms of the costuming of these three drag queens who perform this number as they go into a gay bar. There's also this whole subplot where the conversion therapy center is run by a woman and a man, and the man, who is a former homosexual, is having an affair with the lady's son, basically. And because of the casting, it just reads as an inappropriate age divide. Now, I think her son is meant to be older than the teenagers at the center, but at the end, she forces her son to simulate sex with one of the lesbian girls. So if he is that much older, then that is then very weird. Either way, it doesn't wash right. There is something there that makes it difficult to root for that relationship, and that then becomes a problem. I will also say, when you're dealing with stuff like conversion therapy, it is possible to have villains that you don't need to redeem. I feel so often when we have homophobic characters in LGBT stories, we always work to redeem them at the last possible second. It happens in The Prom, where everyone is just suddenly okay with it at the end and we have to like all of these characters. Someone can be a villain, someone can have these thoughts, and we can show the audience that this is wrong without having to redeem them and forgive them instantly, rapidly, and a little bit clumsily during a finale sequence, just so that everyone is happy and singing the same song. Like, if she spent the whole show being like, none of you can be gay, that's terrible, she's not going to come around to the idea in 8 bars. It's just not realistic. And I think everything else I struggled with this production can be solved with money. Give it a bigger stage, give it some more sets, give it a few more in the ensemble. For the love of God, hire some swings and understudies, because this production, like every production Paul Taylor Mills seems to be working on at the moment, had various cancelled performances due to cast illness. I get it that we're producing theatre in the end times, but my God, cover yourself for this before the show starts. Anyone in the LGBTQ+ community would love this show. It's such a positive and uplifting show. It is so beautifully representative of the young queer community. If you are a young queer person who loves musical theatre, you're going to love this show. If you like shows like Heathers, like Mean Girls, like Be More Chill, this is going to be very much your vibe as well. It's another one of those contemporary teen musicals that you're just going to get obsessed with. If you like The Prom, go and see this show. It is completely on that wavelength. So hopefully we get to see a transfer of this show. I wouldn't be surprised. It seems like Paul Taylor Mills is putting a lot of energy into it. It's clear it was one of the projects that he has been working on for a while. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw it going via the Edinburgh Fringe potentially. Now that Six has had the success that it's had, I think a lot more producers are looking to Edinburgh as a viable option for establishing a reputation, for establishing word of mouth for a show. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if this goes from the Turbine to the Other Palace. This would be a great show for a limited Other Palace run. Hopefully we get to see it again in some capacity in London, because more people need to see this show and fall in love with this show. It's a really important piece of theatre that deals with a really important topic in such a beautiful way. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my Stagey YouTube channel for plenty more content coming soon about all of your favourite shows. If you saw But I'm a Cheerleader at the Turbine Theatre, drop a comment down below letting me know what you thought of the show, and if you have any other questions about it, ask them here as well. Also, if you want to support me as a stagey content creator, head over to patreon.com/MickeyJoeTheatre for exclusive photo and video content. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a stagey day.
For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh my God, hey, thanks for watching, have a stagey day. Subscribe!